So, if you haven't heard, GranblueFES happened recently and they talked about the future of Granblue Fantasy Versus and Granblue Fantasy Relink, but we're not talking about Relink right now, so don't worry about that. Where they mentioned brand new features such as Lunalu, which is a random select character, buffs for everybody, thank God, a Wi-Fi display, thank God, but most importantly of all and most interestingly, they mentioned new system changes coming to the game in summer. They never mentioned what these changes were or even teased them, so we have no idea what these could be, and that's what I want to speculate and talk about today. System changes for a game that hasn't had any notable battle mechanic changes in 2 to almost 3 years of its release sounds very interesting. Now, what these changes could be, well, what is Granblue Fantasy Versus in desperate need of? Maybe a new movement mechanic, maybe an air dash. Yeah, definitely not. Maybe some type of awakening, a passive. Maybe some type of awakening. Maybe after you reach 30% of your health, you gain like a passive ability like in DNF Duel. Like as an example, maybe Lancelot can move faster with his 5U. Maybe Percival can store more than 5 stocks. This all sounds very interesting. That could be fun, but it's not really something they need. What Granblue Fantasy Versus really needs is a brand new defensive mechanic. Or more importantly, more ways to use this. Ever since the release of Granblue Fantasy Versus, the meter bar has had no purpose for other than supers, and that should change. So what I'm thinking is to have some sort of guard cancel, alpha counter, V reversal, whatever you want to call it, and you should use 50% of your meter to activate it. And that is a thing that a lot of people have been saying since release, since day one, that the meter or the bar or whatever has always only been used solely for supers, and there's no other uses for it. And in a game where not everybody has DPs or there isn't any universal defensive mechanics other than roll and dodge, there needs to be something more. So what type of defensive mechanics could they add? Well, they could add, like I said, a V reversal, alpha counter, whatever the hell you want to call it. They could add a push block. This would be great for a lot of characters. They could be also pretty fun. You use 25% of your meter for a push block. This would be really a lot of help against the really oppressive characters like Lancelot, 6, and etc. Another thing that should definitely change is insta blocking. Insta blocking, as far as I know, literally serves no purpose in Granblue Fantasy Versus. Literally zero. If you get an insta block, nothing happens. You just get a little, I think, a special splash or whatever, and that's it. Maybe you gain a little bit of meter and that's it, but there's no like frame advantage, there's no frame difference, there's nothing at all. So I say that either you should get some frame advantage back, or you should suck them in as you would in BBCF when you get an insta block, so you can punish certain moves that you wouldn't be able to punish regularly. This would change a lot of things, because certain matchups would change, certain situations would change. There would be a lot of change if they were to change that things about insta blocking, because insta blocking is literally irrelevant in Granblue Fantasy Versus as of right now. Another thing they could add is faultless defense, as similar to Guilty Gear or even BlazBlue, where you use up your meter. Again, we're going back to the meter usage. Instead of like a push block like I was referring to more of a BB tag push block where you just launch them. This is more of a faultless defense where you push them away slowly depending on how many hits you get. This would be great. For example, I can just imagine you being able to faultless defense Lancelot's Rekka and he gets pushed back and he's not plus anymore, or he can't reach you so you can punish him or whiff punish him. That would also change matchups quite a bit. So those would be big changes. Bursting, definitely not. And still, the thing that makes the most sense to me is to add a guard cancel. Out of universal defensive mechanic, you have no idea how many characters in Granblue have no good defensive options. They either don't have a 5-framer, they don't have a DP. If they have a parry, their parry sucks. That's why it's kind of a thing in Granblue. If you have a DP, you're automatically kind of good because you have a defensive option. So giving everybody a universal guard cancel would be great to get people off you, especially for characters that are zoners. That would really help them a lot. For characters like Medera that don't have 5-frame normals, for characters like Lil Wayne that their parry sucks. This would be such a big change and such a good change for everybody. Give everybody a universal defensive mechanic. In order to activate it, you do need to use 50% of your meter, so you're also adding layers to the game. It's not just, okay, I got meter, I can just use super. Now you actually got to think about how you use your meter. Do I spend it on a guard cancel to get somebody off of me? Do I go and actually cash out on damage? Things like that. So I feel like this should have been in the game to begin with, because there are characters that just get freaking cornered and they cannot get out. See, Granblue Fantasy Versus likes to make you think that it's a very slow and grounded footsie game, and it is. But once you get put into a corner by an oppressive character, bro, that turns into Guilty Gear. You're gonna be blocking forever, and you're eventually gonna get opened up depending on the character that the other person is playing. But let's go back and think about some different mechanics that could be added into the game as well. That awakening thing that I mentioned earlier sounds interesting. Maybe once you reach 30% of your health, you gain some type of extra ability. It's so cool because it gives more depth to every character, and it also gives every character like a comeback mechanic. It's kind of like a comeback mechanic also. Now that I think about it, there is no comeback mechanic in Granblue like at all. There's no overdrive, there's no awakenings, there's nothing. It's just, you just gotta play. So like I said earlier, just imagine if you get under 30% health and Lancelot just starts moving faster with his uniques, or maybe like Zeta's beam goes back to its older self and pierces through projectiles, or maybe she does more damage in spear hits. In the actual Granblue Fantasy Mobage, there are passive abilities that every character has, so this makes sense. It's not something that's really out of the question. And there's so many things you can do with this. Like, you can give Catalina an extra hit on her fireball. You can give Grant an extra level on his 5e charge. There's so many things you can do with this. You can just think about it and brainstorm it forever, and it's really cool, and it gives the characters a lot more depth to what they have right now. And it honestly would, depending on the changes, it could make them into a completely different character once they reach that 30% threshold. And honestly, I hope that these system changes are good. I hope they bring more fun to the game. I hope that they do that, because the last few patches, except the last one that was most recent, they've just been nerfing and nerfing and nerfing and nerfing and just taking away fun and taking away things that I hope this next, I'm guessing, final patch for the game, or next big patch for the game, adds more fun, adds more options, adds that defensive option that is desperately needed universally, adds maybe a gameplay feature like an awakening or a passive for every character similar to DNF Duel and the actual Mobage. And overall, I really just want what's best for the game. I just want the game to be more fun and more crazy, more, you know, just a better overall fighting game. I really just want them to introduce a new way to use meter, whether it be defensively or offensively. Just give us more ways to use that bar of meter, because it's literally just there for supers and that's it. And I feel like that's very underutilized. I feel like there could be more ways to use meter in the game. Like I said, that guard cancel is such a perfect idea that if they don't do it, I'll honestly be surprised. I'll honestly be shocked if they don't add some type of guard cancel with the use of 50% of your meter, similar to like BlazBlue, where you use 50% of your meter and you just get somebody off of you, things like that. I don't see them adding burst. I don't see them adding any type of movement mechanic. I don't see them adding any type of massive changes to combos or something like that. But we'll have to see what happens. What do you guys think the system changes are going to be? What do you guys think they're going to add? What do you want to be added into Granblue Fantasy Versus? Anything, any type of defensive mechanic, any type of offensive mechanic maybe? What would you like to see to be added into Granblue Fantasy Versus? And that's going to be it for today's video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, guys, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, peace.